Good morning, coffee moaners. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome. Tuesday morning, bright and early. How are we all? Good morning, Edward Bevington, Country Pumpkin, Goldie, Mandy Roberts. It is a sad time. It is sad news. The world is in a parlous state. The situation in Gaza is going to be occupying most of our discussion this morning. So if you do fancy, and you're a follower of the channel and a member maybe, and you want a sort of politics-free, global catastrophe area, head over to the members area where last night's No Name Sunday show on a Monday, because it wasn't on a Tuesday, went out, where we chewed the card, we had a natter, we had a catch up, we ate food, we talked. We shot the breeze. Is that what you do? Do you shoot the breeze? We shot the breeze. Or did we breeze the shoot? Anyway, and me and Nad said it's as important for us to have time with you guys in an area where it's not forever threaded through with horror. And threaded through with horror is where things really are. And this morning, where do we find ourselves? Good morning to everyone. Morning to all of our familiar faces and names. Oh, and quickly, just briefly, I want to also say a number of you have been asking where our long-time follower, subscriber, Lee Durrant, is he okay? Where is he? He's fine. I've been in touch with him. He's going through some life kind of moments, chapters, big significant moments in his life, but he wanted to extend his love to everyone and say thanks for all of your concern and questions as to how he is. And thank you again to those of you, you know who you are, who've been reaching out to me over the behind the scenes stuff that's been going on here too. So let's talk about Gaza. What's the title today? Israel is engineering a famine in order to complete ethnic cleansing. Discuss. And the UK condemning Israel simply is not enough. That's what we're going to be talking about. Now, we mentioned it yesterday, and I think this is a real cause for concern. It's a problem, it's a dilemma that I think most content creators, independent journalists, activists, anyone who's wanting to publicize, talk about, mobilize, educate, illuminate on this topic of the genocide in Gaza. There's a phrase used when something's too good, there's too many good things, an embarrassment of riches. There's a sort of there's an embarrassment of tragedies and catastrophes and just awfulness. You know, there's too many things that one can pick on and home in on. And there are so many evolving parts of the Gaza genocide that are just so hideous to comprehend that sometimes they feel too big to even kind of entertain, think about, talk about, or understand. It's so much of it is so incomprehensibly bad. It's difficult to comprehend, which is why I like to think in some small way, we try to kind of walk around and talk around some of the acute news stories, the awful things that occur on the ground as they happen, but also the broader kind of implications for what's happening, both spiritually, morally, physically, globally, economically, everything. So if you haven't, please do subscribe to the channel. It helps us. Doesn't cost you a thing. The members area does, but that's so you can escape the real world for a little bit. Doesn't cost you a thing. You get all sorts of other content too. We have a movie channel. We have a travel channel. We do all sorts of kind of content, vlogging, food, Kelly Cooks, which is back this weekend. So do subscribe, but also, and share and screen record. And if you see a clip or a bit that maybe some piece of something or other me or Nad says, or one of the many clips that we show you, which, it's very easy to miss great, quotes or great sound bites on social media. I mean, sometimes me and Nadia talk about, did you see that thing? And you'll see something, you'll come off your phone, you go back on and you lose it. And then you have to you can't find it again. So, share, a story liked, a story shared, to someone who maybe isn't a rabid Zionist, is potentially progress. Any small thing is part of the struggle and part of the fight back. So where are we at today? The big news today, which all of the major news outlets are covering. David Lammy, our Foreign Secretary, is trotting around studios. I'm sure he's done LBC. I can't bear Nick Ferrari at the moment. I just can't bear listening to Sheila Fogarty. It's weird. I find Sheila Fogarty almost more annoying. I find her so passive aggressive in her assumption that things are so simple around the situation in Gaza. It's just so simple. October the 7th happened and it's just so simple. I mean, it's, so anyway, David Lammy is doing the rounds. He's trotting up, he's trotting around, he's popping up, he's talking in that same pseudo, incredibly emphatic fashion, which really means that when he puts emphasis on a word, it's ghastly, we're offended, we're troubled. It somehow means that we're supposed to take it more seriously. What a load of old shit. Here is a man running around talking words that signify nothing. Total verbiage, volume coming out of his mouth that changes nothing, that means nothing. There's merely cardboard kind of mission statement for the population to go, oh, okay, our government's kind of doing something then. They said the word sanctions, that must be good, yes? So David Lammy is trotting around because the UK and 27 other countries have called for, prepare yourself, drum roll, an immediate end to the war in Gaza. Oh, wow, well, that's going to do it, isn't it? What? We demand an immediate end. Oh, great. 27 countries have demanded an end to the war in Gaza. Not the occupation, not the genocide, the war. It can't actually be a war. When you're an occupying power, it can't actually be a war. We often use the term war. It's just a kind of quick grab. But if you want to get into the semantics of it, it can't be a war when you have an occupying power that controls everything going into an area of a country. The Israeli government would hate to know that according to international law, they're supposed to look after the occupied, not kill them, not genocide them. So, guys, that's all right, isn't it? That's great. That's done it, isn't it? That means David Lammy has done his once every, let's say, when was the last time he was in the House of Commons giving it proper? His once every 6 to 8 weeks kind of statement. And I would argue that his last statement, which we did a live about, was kind of potentially more emphatic and more promising than anything that's come out of his mouth, all these 27 countries, in the last 24 hours. We're in a situation, and I'm pleased you mentioned that, Giuliana Scialanga. We are in a situation that if what is happening to the Palestinians was happening to any other people in the world, Western nations would be considering military intervention. The humanitarian crisis is so extreme that the UN, if not the UN, other countries, there is a strong and compelling argument that military interventionary action should take place on behalf of, not Hamas, as Israel would claim, but on behalf of the increasing tens of thousands of civilians who are being killed and at the moment starved. This is where we've got to. We're way past David Lammy, and we're going to show some clips. I'm going to show you some bits of him on Good Morning Britain, and heading off to all those shows where you're not allowed to say anything really particularly adventurous or challenging, but you can hear what he said to kind of placate the masses and anesthetize the brains of viewers and go, oh yes, that's it, that's great, they're dealing with it, that's brilliant. We're at a point now beyond sanctioning Smotrich and Ben-Gvir and extremist former terrorist settler members of the Israeli government. We're past that. That doesn't do anything. I'll tell you why. Because settlers, extremist, former terrorist and actively terrorist settlers in Israel, I'll tell you one thing which might surprise the West when we sanction them, because that's all we're sanctioning, We're only sanctioning settlers. Let me tell you something. The clue is in their name. They want to settle. What part of the word settler says, I need a passport to travel to the UK or anywhere else? If of all the actions you could take against a settler culture or nation, the least efficient and the least targeted or damaging is the sanctioning of travel. So let's have a listen to what Lammy said yesterday. Let's have a listen to what he said in the House of Commons. And let's not forget, this Labour Party is extraordinarily adept at looking perplexed when you're not happy with their answers, at sounding aggrieved and shocked and outraged by the egregious behaviours of the Israeli state, but does nothing, doesn't touch the edges. It's all governmental chit-chat. It's all ministerial hogwash. There's no humanity or humanistic aspect to it. So let's have a listen.
We condemn the killing of civilians seeking to meet their basic needs. The Israeli government must answer what possible military justification can there be for strikes that have killed desperate, starving children. What immediate actions are they taking to stop this litany of horrors?
Don't ask
and
us.
what will they do to hold those responsible to account?
Yeah.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I've said before, I'm a steadfast supporter of Israel's security and its right to exist. I treasure the many connections between our peoples, and the horrors of October the 7th must never be forgotten. But I firmly believe the Israeli government's action are doing untold damage to Israel's standing in the world and undermining Israel's long-term security.
Okay. All parliamentary bluster. He said it before, they've said it before, they all say it. And do you want to know what Israel's answer to that was? Israel's foreign ministry said, these comments are disconnected from reality and send the wrong message to Hamas. They then accused the armed group Hamas of spreading lies and undermining aid distribution rather than agreeing to a new ceasefire. So there you go. For all of the posturing and the theatrics, I think what Dottie's suggesting, Maya, is that our government is compromised by a foreign nation, and it is Israel. Israel has compromised our government entirely, and in that sense, you could say they, like in America, they do occupy a part of our foreign policy because they're totally controlling it. So I think that's what Dottie might be suggesting. So, you know, all the theatrics, all the parliamentarianism, all of his standing, all of his considered leaning, all of his kind of jowling, all of his blowing air into his cheeking and just getting ready to kind of say posturing and it's awful and it's just terrible and we've given 40 million and fuck off. It's absolute hogwash. Israel couldn't give a flying monkey's jollop what you've got to say, Lammy, and you know it, and Starmer knows it, and you are just merely saying this, kicking the can down the road, kicking the ball into the long grass, any other analogy like that. There isn't any long grass left in Gaza because, of course, they've completely obliterated and scorched earth the entire Gaza Strip. So when will there be a point when it stops, Lammy? What is the point at which it stops, Lammy? What is the stop point? Is the stop point when annihilation has been achieved, when genocide has been accomplished? Because we're in this curious situation where at the moment, no one is allowed to use the term genocide, or there's a kind of frowning or there's a sort of intake of breath from humanitarian lawyers like Keir Starmer, who was very quick to call out the genocide in Ukraine without any international criminal court needing to call it out. He was very quick to call Putin a war criminal before he was even actually a war criminal, a wanted war criminal. So when you use the word genocide, there's a huge, rapid kind of Monsters Inc. Can't say that. The International Criminal Court hasn't said it. That's not how genocides work. For example, if someone was murdering someone in the Isle of Wight, let's just say a murderer, Have they not murdered someone until a court decides they've murdered someone? There's innocent and guilty and all of that, but we're also seeing something. If you've seen it happen, you can't pretend it hasn't happened. You can't pretend that the murder hasn't happened. You can state what's happened. When it comes to guilt, it's the process of attaching responsibility. But boy, oh boy, are we in an international gaslighting situation where people are trying to say, you can't call it a genocide. Why not? Because an international criminal court hasn't called it that. Yeah, but the Prevention of Genocide Charter is about preventing it before it happens. You can't say that a genocide will have only happened once it's been completed. The point of not repeating genocides is that you stop them as they're happening. So I would argue that actually the International Criminal Court is being used by the West as cloud cover now, a go slow cloud cover to not be able to feel that they can call it a genocide. They are Starmer and everyone. You've got America who just doesn't give a flying fuck. Like John Wayne in a Western. America's just smashed into the bar room, smashed open the doors and said, fuck you, International Criminal Court. If they could, they'd invade it, they'd attack it, they'd nuke it. But the rest of the world is using it. Oh, well, actually, you know, I mean, the great thing here is it's taken them months and months to come up with a confirmation that it's a genocide. Oh, we could actually, why don't we exploit that kind of narrow gauge opportunity to not be able to call it a genocide because the International Criminal Court hasn't called it a genocide? But what about when Starmer called it a genocide when it was in former Yugoslavia? What about Starmer when he called it a genocide in Russia? Yeah, that's true. But anyway, we can hide behind, do you see what I mean? We do not need to wait for the ICC to call it a genocide. Let me play you this academic.
No case since World War II of starvation that has been so minutely designed and controlled. This is preventable starvation. It is entirely man-made. So one of the things that we often hear from politicians and some broadcasters is that we can't use the word genocide until a court of law like the International Court of Justice has determined. But the Genocide Convention is the convention to prevent and punish genocide. And if we are required to wait until a genocide has happened to invoke it, it's nonsense. When the International Court of Justice says there's a plausible case and we instruct Israel to do certain things, in this case, provide humanitarian assistance. And I must add, Israel is represented on that court, and the Israeli judge, the former Chief Justice Aharon Barak, voted in favor of this provision of very widespread humanitarian assistance. Israel did not comply. All the states of the Genocide Convention, signatories to the Genocide Convention, not just Israel, but the United States, the UK, Germany, France, all should be acting under this obligation, and they are not doing so, and we are seeing the results today.
There you go. You can't wait until a genocide has been accomplished. Israel has breached every recommendation of the International Criminal Court. Therefore, that is more than sufficient. It's more than Starmer or Lamy had to throw the book at Putin. So my argument now is there needs to be a military intervention by a sovereign nation or a group of sovereign nations. They need to ride in to the rescue of the Palestinians. I can't see any other solution because Israel are not going to change their mission. And I think even Emily Thornberry, who took a long time coming over to the right side of history, but she's got there, and it's kind of nice that she's there, but she's still a bit mealy-mouthed about it. But she articulated something I articulated about 2 weeks ago, which is we are going to be in a sorry situation where most of our leaders call for, recognize and acknowledge a Palestinian state, whilst Trump and Netanyahu are building Trump towers and BB apartments all over the Gaza Strip, and EasyJet is selling £10 tickets. At that point, they're going to suddenly go, oh, there's a Palestinian state, without any Palestinians there. All the Palestinians that are there are those who have been given the freedom of choice to either starve, lose your family, or stay put in a tent. It's total lunacy. Our government using administrative language. Let's have a listen to Gordon. Let's have a listen to Lammy on Good Morning Britain.
Announced a raft of sanctions over the last few months. There will be more, clearly, and we keep all of those options under consideration if we do not see a change in behaviour and the suffering that we're seeing come to an end.
See the way you put the suffering? I mean, it's just like, as long as you emphasize the word suffering, you think we're all going to buy it. Sanctions, you're going to put more sanctions on people who don't give a flying monkeys. They all roared with laughter in the West Bank and Israel when we said, oh, we're sanctioning you. They're like, yeah, whatever. The sanctions, bollocks, suffering. And he says there, if we see no change in behavior, hang on a minute. We're nearly 2 years in, and we have not only not seen a change of behavior, we've seen a doubling down on old behavior. It is an insult. He is an insult to intelligence, to humanity, to heart, to civilization. And I'm going to now show you an exchange between, I think it's Kit Malthouse. He's a conservative. This is a Conservative MP. And listen to the way David Lammy deals with this. What this Kit Malthouse has got to say is spot on.
I'm frankly astonished at the statement of the Foreign Secretary. At a time when we've got daily lynchings and expulsions on the West Bank, dozens being murdered as they beg for aid, I'm just beyond words, really, at his inaction and, frankly, complicity by inaction at what is going on. He himself said there's a massive prison camp being constructed in the south of Gaza. He knows that leading genocide scholars from across the world now are ringing the alarm bells, and yet he has the temerity to show up to this house and wave his checkbook as if it's going to salve his conscience. Can he not see that his inaction and, frankly, cowardice is making this country irrelevant? Can he also not see the personal risk to him, given our international obligations, that he may end up at The Hague because of his inaction? And finally, really frankly, an appeal to the Labour backbenchers. We can't get your leadership to change their minds. Only you can, if you organise and insist on change.
Foreign Secretary.
I understand the fury that the right honourable gentleman feels.
I fucking hate it when someone lands. I'm going to go back to him. When someone lands a spot-on right hook to your moral chin or amoral chin. And what that person does in return is slow right down as they seek to not account for it, listen to it, take on board anything you've said, and go off in a completely different direction. The passive aggressivity in his slowed down response with a fraudulent sense of heaviness. But listen to what he says.
But I have to tell him, that it demeans his argument when he personalises it in the way that he does, and it is not, it's unbecoming and not something that the House expects, particularly of more senior members.
Demeaning. It's demeaning that he's challenged you, and unbecoming. I tell you what, Lammy, you are the most demeaning Foreign Secretary we have ever had. I hope you are held in The Hague, and I hope you are charged to the hilt with genocide, with the support and appeasement of the genocide that is happening. Unbecoming. Beneath you. What an absolutely scurrilous response. Doesn't acknowledge anything that has been said to him. We have a concentration camp being constructed. We have all of the statistics and facts from every aid agency that every single government in the land and on the planet listens to in any other conflict on the planet, bar this one. And he says it's unbecoming to personalize things. This is your personal legacy, Lammy. You might trot up into Good Morning, pop up on Good Morning Britain every 6 weeks to give some piece of shit fucking press release answer. that specifies nothing, and then you'll come back to it in another 8 weeks. But this is your personal legacy, and you're not very good at it. It worries me. It worries me that Lammy and Starmer are humans, because you sort of think, I couldn't function as a human knowing what's happening and making the choices they're making. I could not function. I could not look my own children in their eyes. I don't know how Lammy or Starmer can look their children in their faces. I really can't. It's unforgivable. Totally unforgivable. There are historians and academics looking at Neville Chamberlain's appeasement of Hitler during World War II, as and there's huge books, thousands of books written about it. This is so much worse, and I'll tell you why this is so much worse. Because we have full comprehension and evidence of everything that's happening. Back then, due to the lack of technology and social media and all the rest of it, there was a sense of it, but there was no full knowledge of it until the end of the war. This appeasement will haunt these leaders into their next lives. I'm telling you. Let's go to the woman, or I think the head of the World Food Programme.
Tragedies we've seen so far in this particular war. What happened was we had clearance to go through the Zakim gate. We were through the gate. The Israelis had, as you know, they clear everything, and they decide when and if you go in. And we began our trek down the road, and what we saw were thousands of people running towards us. And they were hungry, they're starving. And all of a sudden, the Israeli tanks, Israeli guns, Israeli weapons from all kinds started firing on the crowd. And it was just, it's something that I hope never happens again. But more importantly, our group, WFP, our people that work for us were there too, and they were put in grave danger as a result of that. No humanitarian aid worker should ever be a target of anything.
Well, this follows a trend over the last 2 months where over 800 Palestinians have been killed around aid distribution sites. The majority of those are at the controversial US-backed and Israel-supported Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Can you be very specific? Are you coordinating in any way or supporting in any way that operational model? And what is your view on the GHF?
Well, we are not coordinating, and we do not work with GHF. As you know, we're a UN agency, and so we have our UN, the way the UN operates is different from what GHF is doing. I don't really have any information about them at all because we don't even talk.
So GHF does not talk with any of the well-trained, well-experienced humanitarian aid foundations. That there, I hate to sort of reduce things down to physical attributes. An American speaking, blonde-haired white woman talking for the World Food Foundation. I've only seen her interview. You search the interview and you search the situation she's describing. It's not been covered by any British papers or any British news outlets whatsoever. It's beyond shocking. Target practice is what GHF is. Target practice. Just some of the headlines. So these are the headlines that are out today, just to back up what we're talking about. Lift Gaza aid restrictions now, Britain tells Israel. That's all very well and good, isn't it, saying that? Clear risk of war crimes. Clear risk. Clear evidence, Mr. Lammy, of war crimes. He will rue the day that he was mealy-mouthed and hesitant. Whether Israel has committed war crimes is for the courts to decide. Wasn't for the courts to decide with Russia, was it, Mr. Lammy? But there is a real risk of breach of international, he says, there is a real risk of breach of international humanitarian law. What has happened, David Lammy, to in every other single comprehensible conflict on the planet, British governments have listened to the advice and the feedback and the analysis of charities and aid agencies throughout the world. In any other conflict, you will take as read the evidence and the testimony of these organizations. And in this conflict, you don't. It's still, you're waiting for the International Criminal Court. And this is what I'm saying. The ICC is being used as cloud cover to go slow. There could be some argument, I'm beginning to wonder, because everything in this world is so fucking tilted in the wrong direction. Gigi, in your bed, get down, come here, come here. In your bed, go on, good girl. Sorry, she's got a little bit of a loose tummy at the moment. Everything is so tilted against, you know, having any moral fiber that I wouldn't be at all surprised if the ICC, has already been compromised. Just ghastly. Just ghastly. I'm going to play you a clip by Noam Chomsky, academic, political observer, philosopher.
The Palestinians is that they have essentially no international support for a good reason. They don't have wealth, they don't have power, so they don't have rights. That's the way the world works, you know. Your rights correspond to your power and your wealth. Same inside the United States. We shouldn't be surprised to see it. If you're a poor black kid in Roxbury, you don't have the rights of a rich person living in the suburbs, right? Same in the international arena. So the Palestinians, I mean, they may get, you know, statements of support, but nobody's going to do much for them, especially when the U.S. threatens anyone who might try to do something.
It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. A couple of other posts I want to share. Imagine still being on the side of the ones killing children in the tens of thousands. This receipt is for life. This is a really important point. It's like I said to Nadia last night. We know who they are. We know who all the lobby group and the high profile Zionist Israeli supporting celebrities and media people in this country who are forever calling out any kind of possible kind of blip in the ways in which people are anti the Israeli genocide. They look for any kind of nuanced kind of detail so they can seize upon it and then accuse them of anti-Semitism, somehow get the BBC to lose their license, you know, have a go at kneecap, all this kind of shit. We know who they are. If you are still at this point supporting Israel, you are not a human. You are not humane. You are not a humane person, because nothing in any way, shape or form can justify the disproportionate 2-year response to whatever happened on October the 7th. So what I would say to anyone who's posting, who's sharing, who's talking, who's trying to get this message out there, when those kind of negative comments come in, the only way I can trust or carry on or believe that there's still a moral compass somewhere in the world is I think these can't be actual people. You can't be a person. They have to be bots. Because as the Footist says, the receipt is for life. These have to be Israeli-backed bots stating this stuff. Who would want to put their name out there now to any form of justification for this? I mean, I'm still talking about a few kind of, you know, high-profile people in this country who are remarkably tight-lipped when it comes to criticizing the Israeli policy in Gaza, but are incredibly like shit off a shovel when it comes to an Irish pop band waving a flag. Just remember, don't reply to them. Don't give them oxygen. If they're humans, just trust that on the other side of this very brief existence, it's going to be hell for them, or more than likely, they're bots. This too from Caitlin Johnston. So what's the plan here? We just sit and watch Israel starve Gaza to death with the support of our own governments, and then what? We just go along with our lives, knowing it happened, that this is what we are as a society, that our civilization is comfortable allowing something like that to happen, that our rulers could do the same thing to another inconvenient population at any time. We're just meant to be cool with that and go on living like normal. I'm just genuinely curious. How exactly is everyone planning to go about living their lives after that point? How does it work exactly? Exactly. Especially when we're taught in school about how horrific World War II was. You can't teach it and then not enact it as it's happening on all your kids' phones all the time. Alison Barber, the Gulf Arab nations need to officially join BRICS and reject the USA and reject the UK. We're a spineless gimp nation. I've said it so many times. My mother hates the analogy, but it's probably because, Mum, it's the most apt description of this country, this government. We are a gimp in a gimp suit, squeaking in a kind of prostate position on the floor. We're just gimpy. Awful. More outrage, which I think really expresses what we're feeling.
Know that we lived in a world where we could watch 2 million people be starved to death and that would just happen. Like, I didn't know we lived in that world. We apparently live in that world. To be honest with you, like, what Israel is doing is even more cartoonishly villainous than the cartoon version of Israel as an evil country that is portrayed in Superman. It's just, I don't know. I don't know how humanity comes back from such a thing.
There you go. Okay. You know, when you're down the pub in Wetherspoons and you talk to someone, okay, if they disengage, well, I don't understand what all the fucking fuss about all this fucking Gaza shit is. It's not on our front door, is it? It will be. Oh, it will be. Eventually, at some point, whoever's sitting there with a pint thinking this doesn't affect us, something about your life, or if not your life, then your children's lives will be impinged upon because someone in authority doesn't like you. Let's talk about the joys of independent media.
To show you why I like independent media better than mainstream media. Look at what he says about Israel.
Yeah, October 7th was awful. Absolutely.
Obviously.
Terrible attack. Mm-hmm. But also, what they've done to Gaza is insane.
It's insane.
And if you can't see that, if you can't say that, and your response is, Israel has the right to defend itself. Like, what are you talking about? Against what? Children?
Right.
Against women and children that are getting blown apart? Against aid workers that are getting killed? It's insane. And no one wants to talk about it. And if you do talk about it, you're anti-Semitic, which is so strange. Like, I don't know how they wrangled that.
In the old days.
So please subscribe. Please share this live. Please say to people that if you're not engaged, fine. If you're not engaged at all. The problem is I don't have a problem with people who aren't engaged in anything, because that's just people who aren't engaged. That's fine. Okay. Sometimes I'm a bit jealous. But if you're engaged in some, like Ukraine, and you're not engaged in others, it's like there are lots of ambassadors for various charities that have been incredibly outspoken about what's happened to children in every other conflict, but they haven't been outspoken about what's happened to children in this conflict. And I'd like to know why. I'd like to know why we all have to whisper in hushed tones when we're out in public. I mean, I'd like to think it's becoming less so, but if you talk about it too much, as that protester in Canterbury discovered, if you say free Gaza, and if you say Israel's committing a genocide, oh, well, those are two ticks that suggest you could be in alignment with Palestine action. Oh, off to prison you go. It's totally, you're right, Natalia, it's totally fear of being called anti-Semitic. Talk about rendering the term anti-Semitic almost negligible. That's what Netanyahu has done. What a dark irony that he was struggling allegedly with food poisoning yesterday when 2 million people in Gaza don't have enough food. What a dark, twisted, slightly kind of poetic injustice there is in that. I'm appalled by David Lammy, and I'm appalled by our country. I'm appalled by America. I think we've made it clear how we feel about the Israeli government. It's just all appalling. So all these headlines today, David Lammy going around feeling like he's ticked his boxes, he's met his brief, he's delivered his lines, 27 countries, they'll push it all into their outbox for another 2 months. And then they'll pop back up, and perchance there won't be anything of Palestine left. That's where we're at. Anyway, guys, thanks for all of your comments. I can see you're all talking between yourselves with each other, sharing in this. Do subscribe, do share, do screen record, do sub-clip, do whatever it is you can do to kind of help get the message out there. It's just unforgivable. Our government is a sham. Oh, I can hear the squeak of Lammy and the squeak of